In just 43 seconds, Prince Harry's carefully constructed public image would crumble on live television as Bill Maher delivered a verbal takedown so brutal that it left the Duke of Sussex speechless, red-faced, and ultimately storming off the set in what can only be described as a complete meltdown. What started as Harry's attempt to defend his controversial decisions transformed into a catastrophic display of entitlement and rage that shocked even Maher's studio audience into stunned silence. The tension was palpable from the moment Prince Harry walked onto the real-time set. Maher, never one to coddle his guests, had already sharpened his claws backstage after learning about Harry's latest media venture, a podcast series where he planned to educate Americans about their constitutional rights, despite being a foreign prince who renounced his royal duties. The irony wasn't lost on anyone, least of all Maher, who had spent years criticizing American celebrities for their political pontificating. "So Harry," Maher began with that signature smirk, "I have to ask, and forgive me if this sounds rude, but what exactly qualifies you to lecture Americans about their own constitution? I mean, you grew up in a literal palace, never held a real job, and your biggest life decision was marrying an actress and moving to California. That's not exactly Thomas Jefferson territory, is it?" The studio audience chuckled nervously as Harry's jaw visibly tightened. His media training kicked in initially, forcing a practiced smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Well, Bill, I think my unique perspective as someone who's lived in both systems gives me valuable insights into—" "Unique perspective?" Maher interrupted, leaning forward with predatory interest. "You mean the perspective of someone who was literally born into wealth and privilege, complained about it for years, then moved to America to continue being wealthy and privileged? That unique perspective?" Harry's composure began to crack. "I think you're oversimplifying a very complex situation. The work Meghan and I do through our foundation—" "Oh, the foundation," Maher's voice dripped with sarcasm. "Right, the one where you collect millions from Netflix and Spotify to tell people how hard your life has been. Because nothing says understanding the common man like signing $100 million media deals while complaining about your family not giving you enough money." The audience was no longer laughing. The atmosphere had shifted from comedic to genuinely uncomfortable as Harry's face flushed red. His handlers in the wings were exchanging worried glances, sensing their client was about to lose control. "That's not what this is about," Harry said, his voice rising slightly. "This is about using our platform to create positive change, to speak truth to power." "Speak truth to power?" Maher practically shouted, causing several audience members to jump. "You are power. You're a fucking prince. Your grandmother was literally the head of state of multiple countries. You grew up in Buckingham Palace. You don't get to cosplay as some revolutionary truth-teller just because you moved to Montecito." Harry's carefully maintained facade was crumbling in real time. His hands were visibly shaking as he gripped the armrests of his chair. "You clearly don't understand the complexities of the situation I was in. The racism Meghan faced, the complete lack of support from the institution—" "Oh, here we go." Maher rolled his eyes dramatically. "The victim card. Because when all else fails, just claim racism and hope everyone stops asking difficult questions, right? Let me ask you something. Harry, and this is a serious question. Do you honestly believe that your family's concerns about your wife had nothing to do with the fact that she was a divorced American actress with a history of questionable behavior and everything to do with the color of her skin?" The question hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Harry's media training was completely abandoned now, replaced by raw emotion and barely contained fury. "How dare you question what my wife experienced? You have no idea what it's like to—" "What it's like to what? Marry into literally the most privileged family on earth and then complain that they weren't nice enough to you? Jesus Christ, Harry, do you hear yourself? You're sitting here on American television complaining about how unfairly you were treated while living in palaces and having every need catered to since birth." Maher was relentless now, having sensed blood in the water. The studio was dead silent, except for the sound of cameras capturing every moment of Harry's public breakdown. His PR team was frantically making cutting motions from the sidelines, but there was no stopping what was already in motion. "And another thing," Maher continued, his voice growing louder and more aggressive, "what gives you the right to come to America and immediately start telling us how we should live? You renounced your royal duties, fine, whatever. But then you show up here acting like some kind of humanitarian messiah. We fought a war to get away from people like you telling us what to do. Harry was breathing heavily now, his face crimson with rage and humiliation. People like me? What exactly do you mean by that? I mean, entitled royalty who think their bloodline gives them the right to lecture the rest of us about morality and politics. You want to know what your real problem is, Harry? You gave up being a prince, but you never stopped acting like one. You came to America thinking we'd all bow down and kiss your ring just like everyone back home. But guess what? We don't do that shit here. The confrontation had reached a boiling point, with Harry now visibly trembling with anger, and Maher showing no signs of backing down. The tension in the studio was suffocating, as viewers watched a member of the British royal family completely lose his composure on live television. What happened next would forever change how the public viewed Prince Harry, and it was all about to unfold in spectacular fashion. You know what your real problem is, Bill? Harry finally snapped, his voice cracking with emotion as he abandoned all pretense of royal composure. You're a bitter old man who gets his kicks tearing down anyone who actually tries to make a difference in this world. While you sit here making jokes about everything that's wrong with society, some of us are actually trying to fix it. Maher's eyes lit up with predatory glee. He had successfully pushed the prince past his breaking point, and now the real show could begin. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I hurt the little prince's feelings? Let me get this straight. You think moving to a $25 million mansion in Montecito and signing media deals worth hundreds of millions constitutes making a difference? That's your idea of sacrifice for the greater good? You don't know what the fuck you're talking about, Harry exploded, his voice echoing through the stunned studio. The curse word hung in the air like a bomb, causing gasps from the audience and frantic gestures from the show's producers. Members of the British royal family simply didn't use such language in public, especially not on American television. There it is. Maher clapped his hands together with mock applause. The real Prince Harry, not the polished media personality your handlers have been trying to sell us, but the entitled brat who throws tantrums when people don't worship the ground he walks on. Tell me, Harry, is this how you talked to your grandmother when she wouldn't give you everything you wanted? The mention of Queen Elizabeth II was a calculated low blow, and it hit its mark perfectly. Harry's face went from red to purple as his hands clenched into fists. Don't you dare bring my grandmother into this, you piece of shit. She's gone, and you have no right to. I have every right to talk about public figures, especially when one of their family members comes on my show acting like a complete asshole. Maher shot back, his voice rising to match Harry's volume. Your grandmother spent 70 years serving her country with dignity and grace, and you've spent the last few years shitting all over everything she built. You want to talk about disrespect? Look in the fucking mirror. The studio audience was in complete shock. Several people had their phones out, undoubtedly recording what would become one of the most viral television moments in recent history. The confrontation had devolved into something ugly and personal, far beyond typical talk show banter. Harry was now standing, his chair pushed back as he loomed over Maher's desk. You don't know anything about my family or what we went through. You sit here in your bubble making millions off other people's misery, and you think that gives you the right to judge everyone else? Your family? Maher stood up as well, matching Harry's aggressive posture. You mean the family you abandoned? The family you've spent years trashing in interviews and books? The family you blamed for all your problems while living off their money and status? That family? I never abandoned anyone. They abandoned me. They abandoned Meghan. They left us to deal with death threats and harassment while they protected other family members who did far worse things. Harry's voice was breaking now, a mixture of rage and what sounded suspiciously like tears. Oh, boo fucking who. Maher's voice dripped with contempt. Poor little prince had to deal with mean comments on social media. You know what most people call that? Tuesday. But instead of handling it like an adult, you ran away to California to write tell-all books about how awful your family is. And now you want Americans to feel sorry for you? The personal nature of the attack seemed to break something fundamental in Harry. His royal training, his media coaching, his carefully constructed public persona, all of it crumbled in real time as he pointed an accusatory finger at Maher. You're a fucking sociopath. You get off on destroying people. This isn't journalism or comedy, this is just cruelty. And you're a spoiled man. Child who never learned that the world doesn't revolve around him. Maher fired back, without missing a beat. The only reason you're even on this show is because people are curious about the train wreck your life has become. Nobody respects you, Harry. Nobody looks up to you. You're a cautionary tale about what happens when privilege meets stupidity. Security guards were now visible at the edges of the set, clearly unsure whether to intervene in what had become a full-scale verbal war between host and guest. The show's producers were frantically trying to decide whether to cut to commercial or let the disaster play out for the ratings. Harry's breathing was ragged as he struggled to regain some semblance of control. You're wrong about me. You're wrong about everything. The work we do through Archuo. The awareness we've raised about mental health. The lives we've touched. What lives? Maher interrupted with a harsh laugh. Name one person whose life is actually better because of something you've done. Just one. Not some vague bullshit about raising awareness. I want to know about one actual human being whose life improved because Prince Harry existed. The challenge hung in the air as Harry stood there, mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. The question had clearly caught him off guard, and his inability to provide an immediate answer only made him look worse. The seconds ticked by in agonizing silence as millions of viewers watched a member of the British royal family struggle to justify his own existence. That's what I thought, Maher said quietly, his voice now carrying a tone of disgust rather than anger. All that money, all that privilege, all those opportunities to actually make a difference, and you've got nothing to show for it except a Netflix deal and a victim complex. You're not a humanitarian, Harry. You're not a revolutionary. You're just another celebrity who thinks being famous is the same thing as being important. The words hit like physical blows, each one designed to strip away another layer of Harry's carefully constructed self-image. But instead of deflating him further, something darker seemed to take hold. His eyes narrowed as he leaned forward across Maher's desk, bringing them face to face in a moment that felt genuinely dangerous. You want to know about making a difference? Harry's voice dropped to a menacing whisper that somehow felt more threatening than his earlier shouting. I served 2 tours in Afghanistan while you were sitting here making jokes about soldiers dying. I've seen real death, real suffering, not the manufactured drama you peddle to your audience every week. Maher didn't back down, even with Harry's face inches from his own. Oh, playing the military card now? That's rich coming from someone who had an entire security detail babysitting him in the desert. You think flying around in a helicopter, shooting at people from a distance makes you some kind of war hero? Please. You were probably safer in Afghanistan than most people are walking through downtown LA. The military reference was Harry's final red line. His entire body was shaking with rage as he stood up straight, towering over the seated host. You fucking coward. You wouldn't last 5 minutes in the situations I've been in. At least I had the balls to serve my country, instead of hiding behind a desk making jokes about things you're too pathetic to understand. Your country? Maher shot back, rising from his chair to meet Harry's challenge. The same country you ran away from the moment things got tough? The same country whose media and people you've spent years insulting? You don't get to play patriot when it's convenient. You hypocritical piece of shit. The studio had descended into complete chaos. Audience members were standing, some filming, others backing toward the exits. Security guards were moving closer, though they seemed unsure how to handle a situation involving a member of the British royal family having a complete meltdown on live television. I'm done with this bullshit, Harry screamed, his voice breaking as he swept his arm across Maher's desk, sending papers and the host's coffee cup flying. The crash of ceramic hitting the floor echoed through the studio like a gunshot. You're nothing but a washed-up comedian who gets his kicks destroying people better than him. Better than me? Maher laughed, a harsh, bitter sound that seemed to infuriate Harry even more. You're a 40-year-old man throwing a temper tantrum because someone finally called you out on your bullshit. This is who you really are, Harry. Not the polished prince or the humanitarian activist. Just a spoiled brat who can't handle criticism. Harry's face was now a mask of pure hatred as he jabbed his finger at Maher's chest. You know what? Fuck you. Fuck this show. And fuck America. You people deserve each other. A nation of bitter, cynical assholes who tear down anyone trying to do something positive. The anti-American tirade was the final straw for many in the audience, who began booing loudly. Maher's face lit up with triumphant satisfaction as he realized Harry had just committed career suicide on live television. There it is, folks. The real Prince Harry. Comes to America, takes our money, lives in our country, and then tells us all to go fuck ourselves when we don't kiss his ass. I never wanted your fucking money. Harry screamed back, spittle flying from his mouth. I never wanted any of this. I just wanted to live a normal life with my family. But people like you made that impossible. Normal life? Maher's voice was dripping with incredulity. You live in a $25 million mansion and sign $100 to $1 million deals. If that's your idea of normal, then you're even more delusional than I thought. Harry was completely unhinged now, his carefully maintained public persona obliterated beyond repair. You don't understand anything about my life. The pressure, the expectations, the constant scrutiny, you have no idea what it's like. Boo fucking who? Maher shouted over the noise of the increasingly restless audience. Cry me a river, Prince Harry. Half the world would kill for your problems. You were born with every advantage imaginable. And you've turned yourself into a professional victim. That was it. Something snapped completely in Harry's mind as he lunged forward, his hands reaching for Maher's throat. Security guards rushed the stage as the host stumbled backward, his chair clattering to the floor. The studio erupted in screams and chaos as cameras continued rolling, capturing every moment of the royal meltdown. Get your fucking hands off me! Harry screamed at the security guards who had grabbed his arms, restraining him before he could reach Maher. Do you know who I am? I'm a prince. You can't touch me. Not anymore, you're not? Maher called out from behind his overturned desk, his voice filled with vindictive glee. You gave that up, remember? You're just another entitled celebrity having a breakdown on my show. Harry struggled against the security guards, his face purple with rage and humiliation. This isn't over. You think you can humiliate me and get away with it? I'll destroy you. I'll sue this network into the ground. Sue me for what? Telling the truth? Maher was clearly enjoying every second of Harry's public destruction. Everything I said about you was accurate, and now millions of people have seen your true colors. Good luck spinning this one, Your Former Highness. As security began forcibly escorting Harry toward the exit, he continued screaming threats and obscenities at Maher. You're finished. I have connections you can't even imagine. My wife has friends in Hollywood who will make sure you never work again. Your wife? Maher called after him with a final devastating blow. You mean the actress who couldn't even get a decent role before she married you? Yeah. I'm really worried about her Hollywood connections. Harry's final scream of rage echoed through the studio as security dragged him through the exit doors, his thrashing form disappearing from view as the cameras continued to roll. The studio fell into stunned silence, broken only by the sound of Maher straightening his tie and calmly returning to his desk. Well, folks, Maher said, addressing the cameras directly as if nothing had happened. That's what happens when someone who's never been told no finally meets someone who doesn't give a shit about their title. Prince Harry, ladies and gentlemen, proving that you can take the boy out of the palace, but you can't take the palace out of the boy. The audience slowly began to applaud, uncertain but growing more confident as they realized the immediate danger had passed. Maher's smile was pure satisfaction as he looked directly into the camera for his closing remarks. We'll be right back after this commercial break, assuming our insurance covers royal temper tantrums. And Harry, if you're watching from your mansion in Montecito, thanks for proving every point I made about you tonight. Class dismissed. As the show cut to commercial, the studio remained buzzing with shocked conversation. Prince Harry's carefully crafted American reinvention had just been obliterated in spectacular fashion, broadcast live to millions of viewers who had witnessed a member of the British royal family completely lose control. The footage would be replayed endlessly across social media and news networks, cementing Harry's transformation from respected royal to public laughingstock. Bill Maher had achieved the ultimate talk show victory, completely destroying a guest's credibility while making himself look reasonable by comparison. The prince had been dethroned, not by revolution or scandal, but by his own inability to handle criticism from a comedian who simply refused to be impressed by a title.